Part two.
Welcome
Jorgi.
back, everybody. Part 2 of the Jorgi interview. Yeah, Brian Jorgensen. Brian Diesel Jorgensen, as he's now
Diesel, as
effectively
we
going to be
now call
known.
him.
Particularly after what he's just told us between episodes. But we know
Off record.
You kind of, if you watch the first one, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
He just went industrial with it.
He did. So
gotta do what you gotta do.
exactly.
There's
Brian.
no judging here, Kev.
No.
Oh no! Listen. Nobody's going to judge because we've all
played,
played the game in this building. So we finished episode 1, basically up to almost the end of your 125 career.
Yep.
You know, you went on that you explained how you went on the factory Suzuki 250 for one, and then went back to Steve Dixon, won a British Championship, and then so we're up to 2001 of your career, and then things start to really elevate from here in the MXGP class. Was it called then, or 250?
Well, actually 500 still. There was 500, and it started to be more developing with 4 strokes in the 250 class. 2002, I decided to go on a bigger bike again. I didn't have any rides in the 250 class. I was too heavy for 125. I already realized that. Achieved,
Hold on, and let me just rewind a bit there. So you won the championship with Dixon.
Yeah, 2001.
But then had you made your mind up to go?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Did he want
a way.
to keep you on a 125?
I cannot remember actually, but I think that Steve wanted to keep me, but I wanted to move in, and my now becomes my manager already a guy called Pierre, which is the guy that takes care of all the transportation for the World Championship. Also back then, he always came to my camper like the 5 last rounds. He came in, he said, "Brian, I have this ride for you in Italy, and do you want to ride 500?" And I said, "No, I don't want to ride."
Yeah, if you're a 125 guy, we don't want to be riding one of those.
4-stroke 500. I said, "No, I don't want to ride." And then he came into the next race. He said, "Brian, I wanted to come and test with this bike in Italy. It's called Veramati."
Oh, fucking hell.
And I was like,
That's me now.
Good job.
That's me now having sleepless nights for
I'm glad you
staring at the ceiling.
I'm glad you haven't just taken a swallow of tea because you need to spat that out.
I have never even heard about the bike.
Me neither. First time I worked for him, I've never heard of him.
But Joel Smith became second in the world on Veramati.
Yeah, only because we left.
Yeah, whenever. Yeah.
Because there wasn't enough stuff to go racing.
No. So anyway, so I said, I don't even know this bike, but so say how is that gonna work? She said, you're gonna be signing with a guy called Edu Racing. He is doing road racing in the 250 class with Yamaha, and he wants to come back to motocross because that's where his passion is. The factory or the workshop was in Monza, in Italy, so I had to go to Italy. I didn't speak the language, something new, and I said, you know what, I will come and test the bike, the Veramati. So after the 2001 season, I went there and I tested the bike. It was absolutely really bad.
They hadn't improved it since '94 when I was there.
So and I kind of thought those two guys, that Alvaro and the other guy,
Guido,
they seem a bit mental.
They were passionate.
Yeah, they were very passionate.
Can we pull that quote out when we do our social media posts and whatever?
Yeah,
that's a brilliant. They obviously were quite.
But passion is maybe
really clever,
a better word, But very very clever, and
very
I
clever.
tried to make a good bike. Anyway, I went and tested the bike, and I was not impressed with it. But I wanted to go that way, to maybe go to the 250 later on. I didn't know that we are going to maybe develop more and more 4-strokes. 2002, the Honda came with their new 4-stroke 450. And basically a lot of things happened from end of 2001 to, let's say, 2002. And I ended up signing with Veramati and Edu Racing. So I made the contract with Edu Racing, but because we were in Monza and the bike was actually produced and made in Monza, we thought we will have a really good team, So I remember going there testing, and after the testing, I said, you know what, I'm going to think about it. And then when am I coming back for the next test? He said, you come back in beginning of November, and we will have a different bike for you. So I was like, that's great. So when I tested again, it was a little bit better. I said, I need, my own handlebars. I was basically riding, my handlebars was like Bob Hanna, down like this. And I tried to explain to them, I need my handlebars to be more up. So I was always riding with a 997, which was the Carmichael bend. which was a little bit up, and I said, no, it's not necessary like this. You just ride with this. I said, no, I want that bar on my bike. So we put that after a lot of fight with the Italian.
Yeah, but why would they argue with you? Why would they argue about
And
bar?
if you'd have listened to your dad early on, you'd have been using a different type of bar. He was right.
Yeah.
Get those elbows down, son. You don't need your bars up there.
So anyway, I tested the bike, and I agreed with Edu Racing. This is the contract we signed. They had a great bonus contract with Edu Racing. So like, you know what? I'm gonna try to do it and do it in the best way. I was heavy, to go with 125, and I thought I will make this work. So I went home, went back training, and I talked with him over the phone, and it's like, I'm coming back in the beginning of January. So I went really home, got to work, did a lot of cycling, did a lot of training. I was really fit, came back. And I remember, as it was yesterday, walking into the workshop thinking that now that what they have promised is going to be standing a factory bike there with my number, my bars, everything's going to be perfect. So I coming in like, I just said, hello. And then I was like walking up and down the road. I see all this row where the bikes are standing. And I was like looking for, 57. That was my world championship number that year in the 500 class. And I was just like, I can't see anything. I can see like a lot of used bikes. And then there was one bike there out of with rental handlebars on. So I said, that looks a little bit like the bike that I rode in, November. But they promised me a factory bike. So I looked at it and I was like, but hang on a minute, that's a rental, my bar, but this one is bent, like completely bent. Not only, like when you can stand here from like meters apart, and you can see the handbar is bending down like that, you think someone had been ridden that bike, but surely that's not the new bike for me. So I went to Alvaro and I said, where's my bike? And he pointed at that bike that was with the bent handlebar. So I said, well, I didn't crash last time, did I? No, but someone else, like a guy called Tom, what was he called? What was it? Tom, something, he was from Belgium. I don't know. I lost the word. Maybe I will remember him a little bit later. But anyway, he rode the bike and had a massive crash. So basically, I just come back and then they wanted me to ride with that bike. So I said, surely I cannot ride with those bent handlebars like down here, and the other one up here. You'll be all right. So I said, no, I'm not riding that bike. But anyway, what actually happened is that they never made any other bikes to me. So they just let me ride the other bikes. So I did January. I never finished a moto over 15 minutes because all the time something broke. And we came into February and I said, you know what? Like my boss was Antonio. And I said to Antonio, we need to have a talk because I have not done a moto in 2 weeks. I'm going to do the Italian championship, which is 2 times 40 minutes plus 2 laps.
You're never going to
Stefan, everyone will be there, And I'm not fit enough on the bike. I've done my homework at home, but I'm not fit enough on the bike. And he said, no problem. We have arranged for Saturday. This was Tuesday. We arranged for Saturday. We will go out, do the testing. You will get your new factory bike. You will get another option with a different engine. Now we are rolling. And I was like, okay, so 1.5 months I've been asking for the same thing, but now we're actually going. I find that a little bit difficult to believe. But anyway, I don't want to be pessimistic, but let's go for it. So I went out because they said instead of riding a 510, I should ride a 570, which was the factory version of the old Joel Smith's kind of bike. Okay, so we went out. I was riding on my normal bike first, and that I broke the gearbox. So that was one thing. Okay, on to the next one. There was another new bike of that 510. I rode that one, and the valve broke. So okay, that one down. So then there was only the factory bike left, 570. So I'm like, okay, now we're going to go out. And I jumped off the first ski jump and the chain fell off. And I was like, that's weird. I haven't lost a chain since I rode a Suzuki 50, back in 79. And I said to mechanic, for sure it cannot be that difficult to tie up the chain in the right way. So I thought maybe because they were road racing mechanics and I didn't know anything about motocross, I thought, okay, let me line up the wheel so it's straight, Yeah. So I was thinking that go away, I'm gonna do this. And I put like a rental sticker on the with my new handlebar that I got. I had a rental sticker in the package, so I put that on a swinging arm because that was the only sticker that was actually on that bike. Otherwise, it was completely plain. So I tightened everything up, went out on the track. Now it's gonna be good, Went off this jump, and the chain fell off. I was like, how is that even possible? I never had that.
I know where this is going.
So pushed the bike in, and I was just sitting down. I was like looking at the chain as it was lining up the rear wheel, and then I just saw there was a little air bubble in the sticker. So that's weird. I said, like, when I put it on with a heat gun. So I was like just looking a little bit, and there was like really a lot of air in the sticker. So I ripped the sticker off, and the whole swing arm just broke.
So the sticker was holding it together.
Well, the inside,
credit
because
to Rental, even for their stickers, even their stickers are strong.
Yeah. So after that episode, it was like,
I'm done.
Well, you lose your faith. You do lose your faith in it, don't you? And it's just
definitely. And I was not, I was really looking forward to get on a 4-stroke, even if I was probably not thinking at that time that I could be really good at 4-stroke. But because I was heavy, and the way that I was actually riding the bike after I rode the 250 and then moved back to the 125, I really wanted to get on that bike and try to do well, So I said to Iter Racing, this is it. I can't do it anymore. Either you find me something else, or I will go with another team, even if I knew that there were not many options a couple of weeks before the first Italian championship, and then maybe 3 weeks before the first World Championship. So we called up, and I had a guy from Sweden, a guy called Johnny Linde. So he was riding with factory Husqvarna, and I met him a couple of times on the tracks, and he told me that he had this new 450 Husqvarna, and he was not happy with it because he wanted to ride the 570, the big bikes, with the Bartolini kind of, when he won World Championship with. So, and I said, what's wrong with it? He said, it's just so small, and I don't have enough power. I love that other bike, because he finished 5th in the world in 2001 on that bike. And I was like, okay, but it looks really good to me. So I sit on it, and then I heard, he said, yeah, but we have a problem because the factory actually went bankrupt. So we have no money. And I was like, okay, so what do you mean no money? He said that we don't know how we're going to get out to the races, because me and Pusa, it's going to ride together. So Pusa is doing the 125 factory with Husqvarna, and I'm doing the 500. But we have no logistics to go to the World Championship. And I was like, we have the logistics. So I came home to Ida. I was like, you know what? I've just spoke with Johnny, and the factory's run out of money. Why don't you call up, Husqvarna, and see if we can get some bikes, and then we take care of all the logistics for Pusa, Alexander Pusa, and Johnny Linde. He said, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. So we finished with Veramati, went to Husqvarna to sign a deal to get some bikes. There was not a lot of bikes, because the problem was that the production had stopped because they had no money to produce any bikes anymore. But they would still try to do the enduro. They were quite well known in the enduro field as well, and wanted to commit to this World Championship. So we took care of everything, and I went to the 500 class with this. I would say, I think I'd be quite confident saying it was not the fastest bike in the world. It was, I almost, when the first time we put it on a scale in Valkenswaard in 2002.
You broke the scale.
Almost broke the scale. It was 122 kilo. Then I have to say, with fuel.
Yeah.
So I was standing down there with my helmet, and the guy just looked at me and was like, is that right? I said,
like,
try.
Are you seriously going to ride that?
Try again, But it did have a full tank as well. So,
like the hell with a 300 poison.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my first year in the World Championship, and with that Husqvarna, it was probably a good transaction for me, because that bike didn't have a lot of power. It was quite heavy, but it was actually quite nice to ride on. It had a little bit more response than the 125, but it probably didn't have a lot more power than a 125. And I was riding in the 500 class, so I could ride that thing wide open. And because I was really well physical prepared, that's kind of suited me well. So I went to the first Italian championship. I had 3 trainings on that stock Husqvarna, and Johnny Linde have still not got the new race bike. So we went out 2 days before, and he was like, I want to ride my old bike at the first race. And Husqvarna said, you cannot do that. And I said, why can he not do that? He said, let me try it, because his bike broke. So he was riding the old factory Bartolini bike. So I said, let me try it. Like, if is it that bad, your 450 compare? He said, yeah, the 570 is much better. So I went out and I got that bike and I did 3 laps. And then I basically click up lap time. There was 4 laps faster than what he did. And I said, yeah, but I actually liked my bike. So then I went out on my bike and then I was even faster than that 570.
Because it was more rideable.
It was more rideable for me, you know. So, so I
you're
said,
a 125 guy, so you're not
Well,
scared,
yeah,
you're not
but-
scared
yeah.
of twisting the throttle.
But there's also so much power. You know, you'd have been testing and developing. You know, moving fast forward a little bit. Those early 450s, you'd have tested some. They're just weapons. Like they still are now, aren't they? I mean, let's be honest.
They're more rideable now.
A stock 450 for the average guy is still too much, really.
yeah. But at that time, it was that bike was just really, you know, I didn't need more power, but I just need the feeling with the bike, you know.
Exactly.
And that new frame, because it was a lot shorter and it was more tight and neat, it was really good for me, even if I didn't have a lot of power.
See, this is a part I don't really remember your 500
me
career
neither.
at all.
I was riding
No,
with 57.
maybe it's because were we in the triple header era at that point?
What year are we
we
talking
started
about?
with the
What years are we
triple header,
talking?
Yeah,
Yeah, so all
2002,
three
yeah.
all three
2002.
classes were together, weren't they? At that
See,
point,
I got an excuse. I was in the States.
yeah, you was in the States. Maybe my excuse is I'd stopped racing GP, so I probably just thought, I can't be bothered to watch it.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I don't remember you when you like the fight when you came back to the MXGP class or whatever, and obviously, you know, the Honda days, the Yamaha days when you actually then really, what I would say, like you were a factory rider then to a degree, but when you get riding for a Japanese factory team, that's when you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So that was what came first, the Honda or the Yamaha? The hat?
Yeah, so basically 2002 was my first year in the World Championship 500 class. So, you know, fighting with Stefan, or not fighting with, but riding with Stefan and Joel Smith and Eva DeMaria was with factory KTM. And I remember, you know, struggling quite a lot, but still got, you know, let's say I was consistent between 7 and 10 all the time. And then in Bulgaria was one of my favorite tracks at that time. And I don't know how I made this qualifying lap. I was just basically wide open everywhere. And it was up and downhill.
Yeah.
But I just railed outside and somehow I qualified third. I qualified third, yeah. So basically on the start, there was Stefan. Joel would never start next to Stefan. He will always start like somewhere in between. So I was sitting there with my, you know, 450 Husqvarna. Stefan was here, I was here, and Joel Smith was here, and then, you know, DeMaria and Bearwoods lined up. So basically you come down to a little bit of a left and kind of like a chicane and then into a right-hand can. And I don't even know how I did it, but I remember going out at the start and I was quite good at reaction. I was always pretty good starter, I would say. But I got outpowered and somehow I just kept it like, you know, wide open. So I was still like around third. And then I passed Stefan going up the first hill, or before going up the first hill. And then there was actually Joel Smith in front. And I remember coming down because they have watered the track a lot. And he was, of course, going for the inside. And I was like, fuck, I don't have the power to go inside here. So I just need to rail the outside. But there was not a lot of water on the outside. So I just railed outside and I passed him going up the first hill because I came with so much speed. And he just looked at me. And then, you know, come back again down. And then next time I was trying to go outside, but then he had more power going up. And it was like 3 hills. And he was just basically doing like this to me. What are you actually trying to do? I was just like, I just need to try to be in the front to see how they race, you know. And that race, I think I was third for quite a while, and then I dropped back to fifth, sixth, and had a small crash. But that was the first time that I actually rode with them, like on top, and actually see how fast I was, or even the line choice. And then in Geildorf, I was actually fighting for third place for a long time with DeMaria. You know, Stefan and Joel Smith was already gone. But DeMaria and me was like kind of like always going back and forwards. So that was my first top 4 place with that bike, which was a bit of a funny, because, you know, when you sign with Suzuki, this was like factory, whatever, even if we didn't have a lot of money, but it was the official team for Husqvarna. And, you know, they were clapping when I came in, like, how did you finish? And, you know, that was incredible what you did, you know, where the first factory deal with Sylvain, because when I came in and made Majora, when I made my first top 5, you know, and I was like pumped and happy because my goal was top 10, and that's what our goal in the team.
And they're disappointed with you.
And they looked at me like I was like, what are you
why
doing?
why, yeah.
And
why
then
you
you
so
come in with
excited?
Husqvarna, they was actually just happy that I finished the race, you know, and then when I could get like
Probably
a
the
result
bike
like
as well.
top 5.
And it's not just you finishing.
not
It
the
probably
most
happened with the
reliable
bike.
thing.
Yeah, you know, and finish top 5 and on that bike was incredible. So that year was something that I kind of learned to get more weight off my shoulders. You know, we were racing to be the best, what we could do, but we knew that the bike was not capable of winning. So I was doing everything what I could to bring that bike in a good, and myself in the best position as possible.
So I think after, I don't really remember that, but it's the years that probably followed that.
Yeah,
That's when like the Brian that I would have remembered, and everybody else in British motor, you know, like a front runner, European champion, and all that kind of stuff, and being a top 10 125 guy, you started to then put that in place in the big bike class.
Yeah,
definitely.
So basically, end of 2002, before the Russian Grand Prix.
Was it a Martin Honda?
Yeah. Honda Martin called me up and he said, "Do you want to?"
Like Tiscali. Was Tiscali the sponsor?
Tiscali Honda.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So they have been world champion before with who did they win the world championship with in the 250
Pichon.
class? No.
Oh, I thought they won.
What, the 500? Oh God,
American rider. Mike Healy? No, what? Not
Hughes.
Not Mike.
No, he didn't win a world championship. Man, you've really got me there.
Oh, you
Somebody's
Win the
watching.
world championship.
Somebody's watching this now, going,
Yeah.
"You
Screaming at
you
us.
retards! How can you not remember who that is?" Charlie's quickly looking it up.
I was in the States.
Oh, we forget a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe I'll remember that later. I'm not sure. But anyway, I went and tested the bikes, and I was like, honestly, I went around Mantova. It was 4 days before the last Grand Prix of the season, and I got
Was the Ruva there then?
No. That was later on. That was when I stopped in 2006.
Okay.
But anyway, I went around the track and I thought, this bike is incredible. It's powerful. It can turn. It can brake. You can jump with it. You can put it sideways without having to deal with 122 kilos. Now you had like 108, as I remember. And it was just a stock bike, just with, Mauro, which is doing the suspension with me. And I was like, I was having so much fun. I rode all day long on that bike. And I rode so much. And every time I went on it, it was just like, it was just wanted me to ride fast. It didn't have any funny feeling. The power was incredible. The whole bike was it was probably one of the best at, that era where the best stock bike that there was. The frame was amazing. And I was like, fuck, I can jump as long as I want. I can do whatever I want. And it ended up with a massive crash. And I split up my
You
leg.
can't do what you want.
Yeah, so I was so tired in the end, but I just wanted to ride that bike, because that was my second time on a Honda, which a third time on a Honda. And I loved the Honda at that time. And basically, I had a big crash, split my leg muscle, was not able to go to Russia. They were not happy because they were already on their way to Russia, and it was not an easy task at that time,
Not easy now.
No. So, basically, I didn't get a lot of... they were not very, very happy with me. Let's put it that way. But anyway, I had a good discussion with Honda Martin, and they said, we really want you to ride that bike, and we want you to go into the MXGP class. So just a little bit of example of dealing with pressure and how team, managers can put a lot of pressure on you, or they can remove that pressure. So the preseason on the Honda went amazing. I had a good feeling with that bike. So going into the first World Championship in Belpuch in 2003 was the first year that we're going to do one race. It's going to be 35 minutes plus 2 laps. But we only do one race. And, you needed to kind of like find out a way to be as fast as possible. But one mistake can cost you 25 points and you don't have second chance.
Yeah.
So I thought that would actually be good for me because I could be really aggressive, but I also think that I can be very, very explosive, but I have to find that kind of barrier where I don't crash, So coming down to the first race of the season, I qualified 4th or 5th, which for me was like incredible because now I was really racing with the people that I wanted to race with. with the best class in the world. And going down to the gate, Paolo came and he took me to the side. He said, Brian, I tell you one thing now, and really listen to what I say in Italian. And he said, just go out and get a couple of points. And I was looking at him like, what do you mean a couple of points? I qualified fourth. Fourth, I'm going to get points,
Yeah.
He said, yeah, just mark my words. Just go out, see if you can get a couple of points, and we have a start of the season. I'm sure you can do more, but I'm just telling you, try to get a couple of points. So I was like, okay, whatever. So got off the start. I think it was like 6 or 7. And I was hanging around like 6, 7 place. And I was like, yeah, I'm riding okay. But I didn't actually feel I was pushing. So then like 3 laps or 4 laps to go, I was like, I can get 6, and then I pushed up to 6. And this doesn't feel like I'm even on my limit. So I got up to 5 and I was behind Gunderson. And I was like, should I try to go for 4th? But I said, no, you know what? Paolo said, and that was in the back of my mind, Paolo said, just get a couple of points. So I don't need to push myself because that could go either way. So finished top 5 in the first race, and everyone was over the moon. And I was really pleased myself because I felt that I was not really pushing myself to
you
my
knew there was more to come.
Yeah. But I had this kind of attitude that thinking, okay, that's it. First round done. Well done. Good job. Now we go to the next one. Let's do it again. And then we go to the 3rd round, which is going to be sand. Let's see if we can do that top 5. So I had like kind of a strategy. If you can finish top 5 in the next 3 or 4 races, then I think we're ready to go maybe even podium. So I did that. I think 6 races in a row in top 5. And then I thought, you know what? I can actually do more. So we did a little bit of testing, went to Bulgaria, which I already did quite well the year before. And got my first really good qualifying. I think it was 3rd after Smets. Did more or less the same lineup. Got into the lead on the first lap, and it was really hot. I remember that being like almost 40 degrees, and they watered the track quite a lot. So I went kind of like aggressive in the beginning, and after 22 minutes of the race, I probably had like a 6-7 second gap, and I thought, where is everyone? Why is there not like riding hard, And I was kind of waiting a little bit, and then, about 25 minutes or 26 minutes, something like that, I just feel like I just got like a heat stroke, I was riding so hard in the beginning, and I was not really thinking about it. It was actually the first time that I ride in so hard condition on that level. And I thought, I had a lot of confidence to keep going, but I just completely lost it. I just start seeing double, and I was like, okay, let's put down the speed a little bit. Stefan passed me, and the weekend before, I was actually fighting for 3rd place in Teutzenthal. And there's a bit of a funny story there, or a couple of weeks before, I don't remember. But it was like halfway through the season, we did Bulgaria in the summer. And Joel Smith, because in Teutzenthal, I was lying 3rd for a long time, or 2nd or 3rd. I had a really good start. And Joel Smith couldn't pass me. And I was like all over the place, trying to defend my lines, as you do, And after the race, Eurosport asked me, so why didn't you beat Stefan? And there was always a big battle between Joel and Stefan. Stefan was the talented one, really big talent. Joel was the
worker, the fighter.
He was the worker, but I think for me, and I could say that straight up to his face, he was probably not wanted to accept that Stefan could actually beat him on the talent because of the work effort that Joel put into it. So sometimes it was a bit difficult for him to deal with. This is my opinion. And he was using me like, I was behind this rider. I don't know who he is and what number he is, but some guy. And I was like, fuck. And I watched this on Eurosport, and I was like, you don't remember who I am? And I'm going to fucking show you who I am. If you don't remember my name or my number.
Well, he was looking at it for most of it.
Yeah. So
it's all over your back.
What I did, I had a Krapovich poster down in my garage where I used to do my recuperation cycle.
Yeah.
After coming home from practicing. So I put on this poster here. I put it down because Joel Smith was on it with Factory KTM. And I put on it, fuck you, I'm going to beat you one day.
And chuck darts at it.
So every time I was cycling and doing my recuperation, I was looking at that poster and looking at that poster. And then I came to the moment in Bulgaria, and Stefan passed me fair and square. And I was like, fuck, I need to get Joel, you know, I need to keep him behind. But he was always really strong in the end of the moto. And
you're suffering at this point.
I was suffering.
That's...
And I remember on the big tabletop, unfortunately, that was the race where Pit Bayer crashed. So on that big tabletop, which was probably one of the biggest tabletop I ever seen in my life. It's probably 45 meters.
Huge.
So, yeah,
so you come down and you G out into it, don't you?
And you had to like back off, and then you need to accelerate because there was a little bit of a kick. And Joel Smith was a great rider, you know, very strong, but he was not the best guy at jumping. Let's be fair with that. I was probably the newer generation that could put the bike sideways and had a little bit this feeling and squabbing. And I love to put the bike sideways. That was one of my drills, you know. I love to have fun on the bike. So he passed me, you know, before we go down the hill, and I stayed on the left side. So I thought I'm gonna take him and try to, what we call at that time, scrub, you know, put the bike sideways. So he was jumping up here, I was jumping here, and I looked at it, and he looked down on me, and then we came into this corner. So then now I'm gonna fucking show you first of all my number, and you'll probably also remember my name after this one. So I kind of like went in here. I looked at him like holding him back. And I said, okay, he's not going to tuck inside, so he's going to go outside. Fine, I'm going to go outside as well. And I hit him so hard. Like, I just really went into him, and I thought, now you can probably remember my name and my number. But in the same time, I thought, fuck.
Yeah, because like...
he's gonna make
poking
me,
a lion.
Yeah, because I was already, you know, really tired.
Yeah.
So I kind of said, okay, let's see if we can keep... There was just like a 4 laps to go. Let's see if we can keep him for a couple of 2 laps. I knew that he was going to get me. But I thought, let me just hang on and see if I can hold him for 1 more lap or 2 laps more. And then he passed me. And you know, that was my first podium. Stefan won. Joel finished second. And that was my first kind of...
Did he ask you your name on the podium?
No, he didn't. But funny enough, we went to Geildorf the weekend after. And so basically what happened at the first, let's say 5 or 6 rounds, I was on the podium. Then I had one in Holland where in Ligne Motor where I lost the rear tire because the Bridgestone, I was riding with factory Bridgestone at that time, and they broke the wire and the tire basically came off the rim. So I had a DNF, which, you know, later on in that year, maybe have lost me the top 3 in the World Championship because I was short of 12 points. But anyway, so we went to Geildorf and, you know, had the same battle there. Stefan was in the front. I was second. Joel was in the back, and he pushed me. So my first was a top 3. Now I wanted to get second. So Joel was pushing me. And then basically 1 lap to go, he crashed, stepping down in that hole before you go up towards the finish.
Because kind of off-cambered straight.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So he crashed there. Got back on the bike again. He finished third behind me, and then we come into Eurosport or whatever, the people that do you interview, and I was like, came in, washed my face, put my new shirt on, and it was like, So I said, where did you finish? And he looked at me, what do you mean? Like I was straight behind you, we were fighting for the whole race? I said, I didn't even see you. And he got so pissed off. So I said, you finished third? I said, well done, you know, good job. And that was the first time that I think he kind of like thought, you know what, he's not only like a little, you know, young Danish pretty boy that just want to be here for the fun. He actually wants to go here and make his name. And then I said, what, do you want to go cycling tomorrow? Because I think you could say I was pretty good at cycling. And he said, yeah, we can go out because we had a back-to-back GP. So we needed to stay in Germany to ride maybe France the weekend after. So I said, let's go cycling tomorrow morning. So I was up and ready and went cycling, and I absolutely destroyed him in cycling. I don't know if you remember this, but anyway, I think that was my way to actually say, could you respect me as well? Because I'm actually here, you know, to want to be the best. And if you knew a little bit about my story, I'm not just here just to hang around. No. I'm actually here to make a point for myself.
So did you feel at that point that you kind of established yourself as like an elite rider, like a championship contender? Because not long after that. How long was it? Because you won GPs.
Yep.
How long after was that? Was that
Well,
that year? Was the following year?
That was actually the following year. So,
but was that whole year and that little window there that you're talking about when you was racing those guys? Did that give you that extra step?
Definitely
of belief to go right. I'm capable of winning a Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think 2002 when I rose against Stefan, nobody think that I could race with them. I even had at the first round in Valkenswaard in 2002. Monique Barwoods was breathing down my neck in practice. We're talking second lap in practice, and he was yelling and screaming at me, "Move out of the way, move out of the way." And I was just like, "What? Why?"
Yeah.
Why are you yelling at me on the second lap of practice? Yeah. And I actually, so what happened there, just to go a little bit back to the story and try to earn my respect. So the following corner, we was actually going up to the finish line in Valkenswaard, and then you had the chicane. So before the step up, he was yelling and screaming and doing that 3 corners in a row. And I was like, just riding, it's like, if you're that good, you can just pass
overtake me. Yeah.
So then I let him pass me over the big tabletop, and then I followed him behind. So when we come down behind the start in Valkenswaard, I just went straight and hit him.
Yeah.
And then I went down the straight and I just did like this. Fuck you.
On the corner that leads back onto the start, that tight hairpin,
And then we came in after the practice, and he was yelling and screaming. I said, "Who do you actually think you are? I paid the same entry, to get an international license. I'm the same equal here to you. Why do you think that you own the track more than me on second lap in practice? You can fuck, off."
Yeah.
And then that was the first time I thought, I have to make a name for myself. And he actually came back to me after the race. He said, "Brian, I'm really sorry with the way that I acted, because it shouldn't be like that. Of course, you should be, on equal terms as everyone else." And Joel Smith was the second one, not directly speaking to me, but over TV, because he didn't know my name. And after that, everything was fine, and I kind of made a name for myself, like you said, in the sport, and got accepted that this guy can actually ride a motorcycle, and he's here for actually try to be the best version of himself.
So what would you say? You went on to win a Grand Prix. You had that 125 career. Just sort of fast forward a bit. We haven't spoke about the end of your career yet and how that came about. But what would you say was your sort of defining moment or year out of all your successes? Was it in that class, or was it as a 125?
2003 was my my first belief that in the best class in the World Championship, I can be a titled contender for the next year.
Was you still on the Honda at that point, or did you sign for Yamaha? No, you signed for Yamaha after that, didn't you?
Yeah. So basically, I finished 4th in the world that year. I had 7 podiums in a row, I believe. I'm not sure, 7 podiums, I think.
We're not going to quibble with you.
And
that's 7 more than, even if you had 1, it was 1 more than me and Wobbs ever had. So you're all right with that.
So basically, going into the 2004 season again with Honda. So now Pichon signed the contract with the team for the 2004 season, and I've already established and developed the bike. So I thought, that would be good to have him, because then I have someone probably with some knowledge as well that can come in. There's already been a 2 times world champion at that point. And coming into the 2004 season, I went to Florida in the US and practiced there. Had an incredible start of the season. Did Mantova, finished second behind Stefan. I felt really strong. Had the fastest qualifying. I had some really good feeling on the bike. And we had a lot of fun in the team as well. Pichon was, for many people, like a typical, a little bit, arrogant person. And I probably saw that same when we were racing, but outside the track, you can actually take him outside the fence of the motocross track.
Different
guy.
He
would be like a complete different guy. Yeah. So I never had any problem with him at all. But going into that 2004 season was probably the first time that I actually believed from, when people said, how do you build up confidence? Well, first of all, hard work. But the only way to build up confidence is actually to prove to yourself that you can be consistent. And when you have learned to be consistent, and when I had 7 podiums in a row, I knew that, okay, this is what it takes if I want to be top 3 or even win a world championship. Obviously, being with Stefan that year, or those eras of his time in the MXGP class where he would hardly not finish, worse than a top 3 in the year. You know, it's going to be difficult because I knew I'm going to get up and down. But coming into that season, I was prepared. I had a great team behind me. We had a great teammate, which also came in with some usable knowledge that I can use for something. And then basically 1 week or 2 weeks before the Grand Prix, I said to the Honda team, I said, I don't want to test any electronics on the bike unless someone else have tested it. So HRC provided with some new electronic for the bike, and they said, we have been testing it. So I said, good. We go to Cremona, we did a test. It was winter. It was 2 weeks before the Grand Prix, and basically the bike stopped in there when I was about 8-10 meters up in there, and I fell down without the bike and hurt my left of my wrist. Didn't break it, but had some inflammation in my carpal tunnel. So I went out practicing a week before the Grand Prix, and basically my whole arm just went, or my wrist went numb, so I couldn't feel my fingers.
You had a real problem with that, I remember.
Yeah, and I was like, that cannot be right. That crash, there must be something.
Because everybody put it down, even yourself, I think, thinking it was like an arm pump issue.
Yeah, I couldn't really understand what it was, and I probably didn't want to understand because all that hard work, I knew that my time was kind of running out. I was not young anymore. At that time, I would have been about 27, 28, because I started GPs quite late. So I was a bit, go to the first race, and we went to Salter, and somehow I finished second there in the first moto. Not because I was riding good, because after 20 minutes, I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. And but Joel's crashed, Stefan crashed, and I basically finished second in the first moto, which everyone was like, yeah, you can do it, and it's no problem with your arm. And said, I didn't feel good because my hand, I could basically didn't feel the clutch. And second moto, I had an average race. Went to Belpuch and did quite a good ride in the first race because it was really ruddy. And I just hold on with my two fingers, and I had to move them a lot. And had some okay. But the second moto, I started struggling a lot. And then I went to Portugal, and I couldn't ride. I just couldn't sleep in the night. And I said to the team, you know what? I need to make operation because there's something wrong. So we went and checked. So I had a carpal tunnel syndrome, and also I had inflammation. So they opened up my arm, lost Falkenswart. And when they basically opened up, they said, your ligaments are 7 times thicker than normal people because, I always use one finger on the clutch. And there was basically no space. And because there was a bit of inflammation here after the crash, it kept locking off the blood to my supplies to my hand when I was holding to the handbars. So they made operation, lost Falkenswart, and this is basically where everything becomes a little bit weird in some ways, because if you believe in upper, you can say power from people not being around, something really strange happened to me because I in the Falkenswart GP, I was sitting on my bicycle down and watching the GP while I was cycling. So to still be in that game, I kind of said, okay, when the first GP starts, I'm going to start on my bicycle. I'm going to have 1.5 hour break with lunch, and I'm going to do another moto. So I was not in the moto.
You was at home watching at home.
I was watching on my bicycle. So I was training, the same hours, the same thing, did stretching. I said to my now ex-wife, I said, now I go to the gym and I do a bit of workout. So I went to the gym Sunday evening, and I was basically sitting in the sauna after the practice and the training. And I was lying down, and I never asked my dad for anything in life. I never, wanted to say to him, oh, can you help me? But that time I really felt that, I was lying there in the sauna. I was just looking up, and I said, Dad, I'm going to go to Teutzenthal next weekend, and I really need your help. I really need you to look after me and make sure that I have a good comeback, And I didn't even know by that time that I could actually race. So on Wednesday, I said to Paula, let's go to Mantova to try to do a couple of laps on Thursday morning. If everything is okay, I still had the stitches in my hand, but I always had a doctor with me for the Grand Prix. We had our own physio and doctor. So I did 4 laps in Mantova. I said, yes, I can do it. I don't have too much pain. So went home, packed the van, the camper, We went to Teutzenthal. I called my mom on the way. I said, "Can you come with your new boyfriend? Call up all my friends. Can you come to the race in Teutzenthal? Because I really need some support there." And we went, and my mom came. I booked a hotel for her new boyfriend, and they stayed there. And we had dinner together on Friday. And she said, "Oh, are you sure you can ride?" So I said, "Yeah, the doctor is going to take out the stitches tomorrow morning, and then everything going to be okay. We do the pads." And I qualified second or third. Couldn't believe it. I haven't ridden the motorcycle for 3 weeks, and I was just like, okay, that was a good qualifying. Pichon had a massive crash. He already had a 1.9 second lead in qualifying, and all the times you have to think about, they were like 100 of seconds, from normally first to 10th place.
Yeah.
And he went out and he did another lap, and the jump before it went up in the old days. You came off the start,
round you come off the start and then you come round,
up the hole, and you jump into
Towards
the
the back
basically
section.
the tabletop was just the finish line, and he had a high sider coming up there, so he basically landed with face into the to there. But anyway, so that was just amazing weekend for me. To wrap that up like really quickly, so that was probably the first time where I thought there's definitely something happening here. Someone is looking after me, because I went out. I was second from the start from Stripers. I jumped into the lead on the first uphill. I jumped in front of him, took the lead. And as I was jumping out of that hill, I was like, fuck, this is what I always dreamed out. But in the same time, I was, you get anxiety because you think now there's only one thing, and that's going back from here.
Yeah.
So I went down to the braking in that right-hander and did in that next jump, and I was like, okay, the new strategy is just to do one lap at a time. Now you go wide open for this lap, and when you have done this lap, you do the next lap, because for 35 minutes plus 2 laps was too much in my brain to think about I could win my first Grand Prix. So I just start breaking it down.
Under the circumstances as well.
Now we're just going to do one lap, see how we feel. And if I feel good, I can do maybe another lap in the lead. And that's how I processed it. And, by 25 minutes, I had, a 4 or 5 second gap.
I bet it felt like the longest race of your life.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I think I had like a 6 second gap to Malot. And Stefan was third. And I won the first moto. Jump over the finish line. And I couldn't believe it. Like, how easy it actually was. But how satisfied it was to win my first Grand Prix, or my first race win in the MXGP class. And then, everyone was, of course, really happy for me. And I was happy because I saw that World Championship that I thought I could maybe get was maybe, getting less and less. So I also changed my goal setting and think now I'm just going to try to win a Grand Prix, or win a race in the main class. And I went down and everyone was happy. I said, just don't forget it. I did that race. I'm just going to go down, do my cycling. And now I need to prove it again. So I went out in the second moto and whole shot that first. And I remember so clearly, I braked so late and going in and down the hill. And I was like, fuck, now you did it again. Now there's like 20 laps. You have to stay here. And I had an amazing run. I remember coming over the first big tabletop. I took the tire off, put the bike completely sideways, and thought, here we go. Let's have it. And it started raining, and Stefan was, of course, coming closer and closer. And I could see like 100 of a second, 200 of a second. And I kind of like, I could actually have finished second because Stefan
you could
third.
still won.
But in my head, I was like,
he
finished second, so I need to win. So I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and we literally jumped over the finish line like this. And won my first Grand Prix. And
that is incredible.
So win both races?
I won both races, led 40 laps, which was the first one to lead 40 laps that year and to win both motos. And basically standing on the podium, I remember that's where all the emotion came. Because I was like, this is what I said, last weekend to you, and now this is kind of magical. My mom was there, everyone was there. That was really close to me, and I remember the feeling of actually, wanting to put your hands up in the air, but then thinking, "Fuck, now I have proven to everyone that I can do it. Now I need to do it again."
Every week,
So it's never. I think when you're on that level, it's never like I probably never got to really appreciate it because my mind, I still want to be a world champion. And I think that was a great achievement, but now let's go again, It was only when I retired that I actually start learning about what you've done is actually
so
amazing.
You say that there because obviously, time we could sit here and talk for hours. So how long after did that come about? And, and we ask everybody that comes in and talks to us, we always ask them this question because some people, it happens in different ways for other people when they wrap up their riding career.
Yeah.
Some people literally just wake up one morning and go,
Don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this. Others, it's like a long goodbye.
Yeah.
They keep trying to fight in the inevitable. So what was it like for you?
Yeah, well, so basically, just to wrap up, so 2004 was a great season, but far away. I lost eight rounds of the World Championship because of injuries, because of the hand. I had another injury with my foot and my knee. So I finished 8th in the world, signed a contract with factory Yamaha, with Stefan Everts being my teammate. Didn't have a great year, but won a couple of, had a couple of podiums. Won my first race in Namur, which was also an incredible story. But then 2006, I finished my career. And how that came about was that I started getting quite a lot. I was, my career didn't have too many injuries. I was quite lucky or in a certain way built that I didn't have a lot of bones that broke. I only broke a collarbone. But that time I started getting pain in my back, and because when I was really young, I broke my coccyx, which is the tailbone. Yeah. Because I probably had like small cracks in my vertebra on the outside, I started getting pain in my back. And basically one morning I woke up, we had been out mountain biking the day before, and we were doing like our old railway, and there was like a lot of bumps. So the seat was like keep going like that,
the backside, yeah.
And I didn't really notice. I had no problem. But when I got out of the bed next morning, which was after the third round of the World Championship in 2006, and I just got so much pain. I rolled over, and it was just literally like someone was stabbing me in the back. And I got like, is there anyone?
Yeah.
Because something really weird feeling. So I kind of rolled up on my knees and tried to get up, and I keep getting this stabbing pain in my back. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, what is actually wrong? Went in and took like an MRI scan, and they said that there's not really anything wrong. You have actually broke a vertebra, but on the outside before, maybe from crash where I did in Majora in 99. I had a massive crash, but didn't even pay notice to it. And they said it's your tailbone that keeps being bent. So every time the seat will hit, it will like block up my back, and then my pelvis would turn, and I will get a lot of pain. So basically, I went to a doctor that took out the tailbone, that they straightened it out again, which was not a pleasant way to do things, as I don't want to go into details. But
you've got a spare cushion. I'm getting a bad back just saying, listening to it.
So basically, when I had that kind of treatment a couple of times, I thought, you know what, this is it. This is fucking,
because it's just brutal.
Yeah, it's just brutal.
And as you get older, it just gets.
It was just not a nice way. And I kind of 2006 when I signed, I had 1 year with factory Yamaha with Stefan. I finished 13 in the world. I didn't have many great races, not because of the bike was bad. It just didn't really fit me. And it was difficult to ride with Stefan's setting all the time because he was a completely different rider than me. Obviously, being 9 times world champion, you don't have a lot to say.
Yeah.
And and that's why I moved back to Honda.
Why are you giving him all the support?
No, but it was not about the support.
No, but you know what I mean.
My words didn't equal as high. On
that's what I'm saying. He would have developed the bike. He would have, that's what I meant. He would have had more clout, as it were, to have the bike.
And he had more goodwill because he won every year.
That. Yeah, that's what I mean.
So going into the 2006 with Honda, when that started having those problems, I remember this as it was yesterday. I did a lot of long cycling. I thought, is this it? Because basically when you are a racer, I mean, I don't know if you knew when your career will finish.
Yeah, the same thing. But you kind
of like, now it's actually finished. And that means all that identity that you build up, your personality, this is all you know. And you think, fuck, what are you going to do next? Because
that's the thing. You invest so much into it, to the point where actually more now people do kind of look at the long game and try to have a plan in place of what they're going to do maybe afterwards, because it's people are more aware of it, more but maybe a bit more in our day. You just kind of like you just didn't prepare for that. You just rode, you trained, you kind of like you didn't think of life after.
No, and I never thought there was, when I never knew when it's going to end. I was not hoping that it was going to end there, because even if I could not sign a 2007 contract with Honda, because Pichon already had a 2-year contract with them, then I knew that, at that time that Aprilia wanted to sign me for quite a lot of money for a 2-year deal. But
I forgot you about that.
Yeah. But I never signed a contract with Aprilia, because I kind of thought, if I cannot improve on my fourth, result in being fourth in the world, and I will not be a podium contender fighting for a world championship, I didn't even want to be there anymore, because that was my only goal, was to be a world champion.
Yeah.
And because I got this, I was always honest, and like I think I can say that with a lot of pride to a lot of people, that I never make excuses for myself. I always trained hard. I was very dedicated to what I did. But here I felt I had to make excuses, because you are coming out, the press will say to you, "Are you all right this weekend?" Kind of thinking that what's going to happen now. But one time the seat would hit in my bum, the tailbone would crack, and I would just block up. And then you have to go to say to people, "Oh, I have pain in my back." Yeah, but you said this morning there was no problem. So I didn't want to make excuses for myself, and I knew that I didn't make excuses, but I didn't want them to think that I was making excuses. Yeah. So I thought, you know what?
Fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play, because you could have, particularly with the dangling Aprilia carrot.
Yeah, I could get a really good contract for 2 years, but
bravo.
I think Coppins took that contract maybe.
Yeah.
So you know what? I called my mom, and like I said, my mom has always been, a lot of driving force. When I needed to make a important decision, she was the one to call. And I said to her, I didn't even say to my wife at that time, I'm gonna stop. So I called my mom first. I said, you know what, Mom, I think it's time for me to stop. He said, yeah.
She said, I told you that when you put the lever in your head.
Yeah. She said, I think it's time for you to
come. About bloody time is probably what she was saying.
So she said, I think it's time for you to come home.
Yeah.
And that's why I decided. And then I made an announcement in Europe, and, had a great way to explain to people that why I was going to retire. And even if it was tough and you kind of think, what's next? Because it's kind of all your identity that get ripped away. Because who am I now with not being Brian Jorgensen, being a factory rider?
Well, look, we haven't got much time, but we're going to touch on that, because you then, and you're still doing it now. Yeah. Obviously, a motocross coach, and a bloody good one at that. I can say that because he sat next to me, and we're working together on some stuff. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of knowledge to pass on, not just with the riding.
Yeah.
Because the whole other side of the sport, that if you're going to make the grade, that you've worn the T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, the great part for me that I kind of, when finished my career, what's going to happen now is that I kind of really quickly diverted to be, I want to be helping other people. And why I wanted to do that was because everything what I have learned, I never had a riding coach. I never have someone to tell me how to stand on a bike or how to do things in the right way. I had a physical coach with a couple of years, how to train in a proper way, to eat in a proper way, to do all those things. And I understood the importance of all that if you want to be one of the best in the world. But I actually
came a little bit late, really, for you,
didn't it? Very late. I spent the first 3 years of my 1-2-5
sort of working out for yourself.
Yeah, just thinking, I'm doing enough.
Like cramming in a whole off season of training in a week.
Yeah. And it's not because I didn't want to. It's just I was just in lack of knowledge. And when you speak to the young kids today, and you try to explain, there was no internet, there was no Google, there was no, you couldn't get a lot of information. Where today, there is a lot of information available. And that's where I thought, I want to be a trainer. I want to help other people. I want to give them the experience that I have for many, many years, learning and making the mistakes. And that's basically what I did. I did 3 years with the Danish Federation, with Thomas Olsen and Rasmus Jorgensen and all those people that came through. Stefan Olsen, which finished second in the European Championship. And then I went on after that to do something with the Norwegian Federation for 2 years as well, with Kevin Hogmo and those people. So it's been great to be a part, even if I didn't have a rider that then win a world championship, but I know that Thomas Olsen, finished 2 times second or 2 times podium in the world championship. Hopefully I have led the way for some young Danish riders, even if I wanted to be a world champion. But I was probably the first one that really took the risk and, signed my first factory contract. And hopefully I've been a picture for them that saying, if Brian can do it, I can do it. And that's something that really makes me happy. Yeah. And also today, training and helping, Yamaha developing the program with the Blue Crew here in the Yamaha UK, Yamaha Europe and also Yamaha Scandinavian, plus, helping other people in general, trying to be, first of all, more safe, because we all know that it can be a dangerous sport. So it's really important for me to learn people to ride in the right way. And like I said, I made the mistakes, not because I wanted to make the mistake. I just didn't know. Why is it important that my feet position is completely attached to the bike? Why is my hips have to be open? And all those things, the elbows, obviously, like I told in a previous episode, that my dad always told me to get down my elbows because then I will look like everyone else. So that's something that is that's really important for me to give my knowledge to the young
still
people.
Going strong. That's how we've managed to get you in, because you've come over to do some stuff in the UK. You're gonna be doing more of that.
Yeah, definitely.
With the Blue Crew thing anyway.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna get together and do a little program as well with Giannis. So
for sure.
you're gonna be spending more time in the UK because your
English,
fiance,
basically.
she English. Your fiance's English.
Yes.
So
and I'm not coming over.
Back, Bry's back.
Yeah.
Diesel's back.
I'm not coming over because of the weather.
No, today's proved that.
But I love.
I just make sure my cap on my truck locked.
Yeah, please, make sure.
And
because he'll be siphoning diesel before he goes.
check your tanker because mine is actually a diesel.
So and the route that we've come today, with like literally rallying across most of the West Midlands and Shropshire and Wales. Yeah.
No, so it's great to come back over here again. I always had I don't know. I always had a special bond with the British people. I understand the humor. Like a lot of people. Do you understand? One of my comedians that I was watching when I was younger was actually Roy Choppy Brown.
Yeah.
And
you'd have definitely learned the lingo with that.
Yeah. So
plus you spent a good amount of time with Craig Elwell.
I did. Yeah.
Now that is an educational.
Yes, in itself. So, and when I do my training school in Red Sand during the winter, I have a lot of British people, and it just kind of hopefully just breeds off the consistency of what I do, and try to teach and people to be a better rider, and hopefully in the end goal is to be faster.
Yeah,
which everyone wants.
So if you want to trust me, Brian knows his shit. So if you want to learn how to ride a bike better, go on. Quick plug. What's the training schools? Your ones. What's your website? How do people contact you?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just.
He's like, what? It's been a long day, Brian. It's been a long day.
Yeah, it's called MX8, MX8.dk, and why it's number 8 is because obviously I rode with 8 of the last part of my career.
So you're going to be. So Brian does his ones, and then you and I and Giannis getting together, and we're going to do Race Revolution. So it's a combined thing. They're going to be like boot camps and stuff.
Yeah,
fitting around our other schedules. We can't do it every week. You got your stuff going on.
Yeah,
we got our Blue Crew stuff. We got Torq Moto Podcast. We've got events to race and ride. A lot going on.
And why we wanted to do that was exactly like what we have talked about in this podcast as well. Trying to get every aspect. The knowledge of you riding. The motocross bike on the level that you did. My level, and also get a fitness coach in that can actually provide and give the kids a lot of more opportunities than, for example, I had, because I didn't know how to train. It's something that I learned over the years. I need to do more of this. I need to do more leg training, more calf training, whatever it could be. And here you actually have a professional person to actually say, this is what you need to do.
Yeah, we're going to be rolling that out over the next month or so. By the time this comes out, there'll probably more detail on it. So that's Race Revolution. Keep an eye on it on social media. Me and Brian Giannis are going to put a program together. We might even roll out and show people how bad we've actually become at Race Farley. Just to prove that we were good at one time.
One time, yeah.
We still know how to ride a bike, but just maybe not quite.
Maybe you should put a team in.
Well, This is what Charlie said. Yeah, maybe because we're 2/3 of the way there, aren't we?
You only need one more.
Yeah. Who could that be?
I don't know.
I mean, I rode, at Farley Castle, I rode for the Irish team. So come on, we can do.
We can put this is
and
snowballing.
to be honest with you, that was in the bar most of Saturday night. So
this is snowballing too quick for my liking.
I think you can get a team entry.
Okay,
I'll speak to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could talk because we didn't even get on talking about. Can we stretch another 5 minutes out of this, Charlie? Have we got enough in the tank? We have. Very quickly then, because we were going to talk about the state of affairs, basically, what was we talking about in the break? Like world motocross and the number of riders. How do you see the global view at the minute?
Is it healthy
compared to what we used to? Because you go to a fair amount of GPs, EMX. The whole thing over the last 2 decades has changed quite dramatically.
Yeah,
you said quite like we've all been to GPs where there was like 100. Well, particularly the 125 GPs back in the day, like 90 to 100 riders trying to qualify.
Yeah, basically 2 or 3 groups.
And now if you do the equivalent, which would be effectively the MX2 class, would have been the equivalent of what the 125 class would have been back then.
Yeah.
There's some rounds where we don't feel the gate. It's.
No, I think...
I know we've got EMX 250 and 125, but still it's...
It seems to be a big gap between the EMX 250, which is a very competitive class.
Yeah.
125 is a great learning. That's why, people like Ben Townley come over with his, sons and want to do that series because they don't have that equal in America. But we seem to lose people, from the MX2 World Championship to MXGP class, and they want to go to America.
Yeah.
So I cannot tell you exactly what we can do different, but I can just say that we must be doing something not quite right. So there needs to be... someone to analyze this and hopefully see the same what we three are seeing. I mean, it doesn't take any science to actually look at the gate and thinking there should be 30 places or 40 places, and now there's 19. Something is not right.
Yeah. And it's not just a single country. It's not like, well, there's no English guys doing Grand Prix because there used to be a struggle to get on the grading list.
Yeah.
And you'd be racing British Championships against 5 or 6 guys who are in the top 10 in the world.
Yeah.
Now, we got a couple of good EMX kids, and we got Ben Watson having a go, but it's not like it was.
No,
but it's not like the gate's full of French kids or Italian kids either. So every federation must be having the same.
It just feels that the window of opportunity is now, for whatever reason, has just tightened up so much. At least, obviously, I know it's all this rose tinted glasses thing, but you could go and give it a go and try and qualify and work your way up to it. Now it just feels like if you're not making the grade, like in your first year of EMX 250, then unless you are like, I've got an unbelievable sponsor or you're stupidly rich, like the opportunity to then progress just goes.
Yeah.
Teams are just going, well, that was your shot.
Yeah, you had to go.
That's your shot, but you only get one, like you said, like it took you a little while to find your feet, but when you did, it's like, well, like the Rob Hooper, what you said, like literally, if that opportunity only come along, and it feels like that, like they get 1 year, in 125 is like you say, they can learn. They get into EMX 250, and it's like if you're not in there in the mix in the top sort of 5 in your first year, it's kind of like, well, where do you go from that? Do you just keep not flogging a dead horse, but spending a load of money to try and get to MX2 and actually get a bit of a paid ride? Yeah,
exactly like that. So 125 was always a talent, class where teams would be looking out. EMX 125 or European Championship, as you called it at that time. They would be looking out for the top 3 riders. Okay, if they're any good, we will normally bring them into the World Championship, at least one rider. But it seems now they're not really having that talent, scout where they go out and watch. At least you like been signed since 85, like Jorge Pardo have, and those incredible talent. But I would not say that I was incredible talent. I was not like a Jeffrey Hurlings or someone like that. But I worked my way up to be really good, And it gave me the opportunity at that time. And that opportunity that I had seems to be gone away with the level that I had at that time. I think you're right. And another example, like you're the same. I would put Josh Coppins in the same scenario. He came over, from the other side of the world, all that thing. And if we're in the position that we are now, Josh was like a late bloomer. He was a slow burner. Like he was the third rider on the factory Suzuki team in '99. that year
He was on the last year's bike.
Yeah, and he was paying his way. Suzuki New Zealand was paying his way into the team.
And the deal was he rode.
Yeah,
he had all the old parts.
But then he actually became the best rider of all of us, and then he became a
factory. But over like a 2 or 3 year period, you know, what I'm saying is, if that had been his one shot, and he didn't if they'd just gone, well, thanks, where would he have gone from there? Back to New Zealand, I guess. You know.
And then he was fighting for the world championship.
Yeah, exactly.
In 2007.
Yeah,
he should have won the world championship.
I mean, it's a different podcast in itself. I mean, you know, but we knew we was going to be speaking to you for ages because you know the career that you've had and the story. You know, I obviously knew a bit of the backstory coming in, you know, already, but some of the things there. I mean, the divine inspiration, whatever you want to call it, for winning your first GP is.
Yeah,
that's a great story.
That is impressive.
Charlie just held something up, and I wasn't even looking.
Read it. I don't know.
I wasn't even looking.
Sat behind the light. This is.
There you go. This is coming out after Father's Day. So,
your eyesight.
My eyesight. Well, I've had it lasered. Wob.
I'm going to put some T-bars.
When is the Father's Day?
Don't ask me.
That's right.
There you go.
You like that, don't you?
Is that titanium?
Yeah. Cool.
I would feel good with that one.
Yeah, everybody does.
No, that's good. I mean, that's good for getting fuel caps off. Apparently.
Everybody likes them.
They are very nice.
Aesthetic.
Yes.
And trust me, your dad or
well, look after that one. That would go straight. That would go like your diesel will.
Obviously, for those of you that are listening to this podcast and not watching it,
we're just all twiddling T-bars like an idiot. But they are nice in your hand.
They are really nice.
Yeah.
And like the mechanics, they love them. You don't get much nice stuff. And trust me, your dad wants some.
And you know what? The good thing also, when you get a little bit older, that the actually tin is as big as I can actually see it without glasses.
Yes. That's a valid point.
That is a
and this long one, we developed this.
That's the one you want, Bri.
Yeah.
It's got 8 on it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Oh, yeah. Well,
if you're going to steal one, steal that one.
Oh, that's even nice.
These are cool. What about that one? Double ender, we call that.
Yeah,
and we got the stubby ones. These are Pro Circuit guys asked us to make those for the backpacks.
Oh,
and these long ones were made for Valentino Rossi's road race team, and then the motocross guys use them for front pinch bolts and top triple clamps, so it misses the handguard, misses the tyre.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is good, because I find that incredibly annoying.
It's really annoying.
But very rarely when I do actually go anywhere near it, taking a front wheel out, which is
the factory Kawasaki guys have that and a 22mm spanner, and they can do the whole front end with that. The
stuff you learn on this very educational Torq Moto
we do a lot of I mean, they all use them. It's mega. There's like so many guys, race team guys are using them.
So there you go.
Yeah. Titanium T-bars available on DocWob.com.
Yep. That'd be good.
And trust me, your dad or the man in your life does want them.
He does.
And the people that have seen them, you haven't seen them because they're going.
Oh God, no! And it keeps Wobs ticking over, which ultimately keeps Wob ticking over, which keeps Torq Moto going. So do your bit. Support the podcast by buying these.
Yeah, they're proper.
And the event. Nice. Yep. Bri, it's been a pleasure. We could go another hour or so, and maybe future we might get you back in. Maybe at Farley we'll do a live one or something.
We'll do a live one at Farley.
Him to come and ride.
I think he'll come.
Yeah,
I got a feeling he'll be there.
Okay,
good stuff. Look, safe journey back, because don't take the same route here. All right.
Well, thanks a lot.
Take the motorway back, because that was mental.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back with some more of these. We don't know who just yet. Like and subscribe, all those regular things.
Really helps.
Obviously, social media, and keep doing a thing. And if there's any beautiful people out there that think, you know what, I wouldn't mind becoming a sponsor of this or whatever, we're all
please
ears. Do. We're all ears. Yeah, if you want to get involved.
And I will say, get your VMXDN Foxhill camping passes.
Because they go quick.
They go quick, and we've only got a certain amount of space. That's it. When it's full, it's full. I mean, like spectator tickets, you can come. But there's camping. If you want to camp.
Yeah, get on it.
I would book your camping space because it's filling up.
Yeah, and make it a very special weekend, which it always is.
It always is. It has been, like I know we had a nightmare of the weather last year, but it was...
Don't worry about that.
No, but what I like about it is the vibe. It's a 90s vibe. It's fun. There's some good racing.
Listen, that's what you set out for it to be. Almost the rebrand, coming away from Farley to that, and you've absolutely executed it. So, and that's why we all bundle in there.
It's a good old do, and it's a good old thing. I mean, it's going into its 4th year now, so we're refining it. We're making it better. That's gone quick.
I'm going to go out on a limb here as well, and say, hopefully, fingers crossed, that we'll be doing some live Torq Moto shows as well.
We just need to get some speakers sorted out, don't we?
Yeah, we'll worry about that. But if you're coming to the event, hopefully you'll see us.
We'll do something.
Sat there, and we'll do a bit more of it. Engage with the people there a bit more.
Very much so. Yeah.
Right. Let's hit the road. You've got to get back. We got
late, innit? What time is it?
We got very late. It's 10:35.
10:30. No one will be
He's got
yawning.
a fresh face for a Blue Crew ride day. We've got not
I'm
tomorrow.
fresh off a weekend in Monaco.
There we go.
I'm knackered.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
tough life at the
Drop
top.
in the
innit?
names.
Right, people. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in another couple of weeks with who knows.
We're getting Neil
Who
Prince
knows?
wants to come in, doesn't he?
Yeah, we'll tell you near the time.
We'll figure it out.
Thanks for watching. See you again soon.
Cheers, then.
Thank you.